Saturday I posted a blackout of my social media channels and just posted BLM. And a lot of folks responded, all lives matter. And I want to talk about that a little bit because I don't think that the people that are posting all lives matter should be canceled. I think they should be educated. We all agree all lives matter. But I had a really poignant experience tonight when I was putting my kids down to bed that lent the words for why Black Lives Matter. So usually Mila and I put our kids to bed, we read them a book, and our daughter always gets to go first. And tonight, as we were reading her book, my son says, wait, why don't I get to go first? And Mila said, because girls go first. And he said, yeah, but boys go first. And I looked at him, I said, no, girls go first. And I said, you know why girls go first? For you and me, girls go first. And the reason why is, for some boys, girls don't get a go at all. And so for you and me, girls go first. So when it comes to Black Lives Matter, I think what folks that are writing All Lives Matter need to understand is that for some people, Black lives don't matter at all. So for us, Black lives matter. So while you may have the best intentions in saying all lives matter, remember, for some people, Black lives don't matter at all.
I just want to speak for a moment to my fellow white people, if I may. What are you afraid of? Violence? Then you would get rid of guns. Losing money to redistribution? Then you would tax the rich who pay less than you do. Reparations? How much money have you lost just this year to the criminal mismanagement of the COVID crisis? Loss of control? We white people have no problem losing control when the wedding DJ plays Bruno Mars. Uptown Funk gonna get you. Don't believe me? Just watch. This movement, this moment won't end without demonstrable, quantifiable change. New laws, new consequences for those who abuse their power. Maybe that's why our government is afraid. They know that representative government is powerless without the consent of the people. Once it loses that consent, it's no longer representative. It is, to borrow the words of a sad little man pretending to be his own lawyer, not real. And white Americans will soon be a minority, and that's great. Our only spice is potato. Learn from history. The minority has never been able to control the majority without first denying the majority's humanity, and thereby losing their own.
I know I'm not exactly the voice that people need to be hearing right now. In fact, I need more confirmation that this is real. I've gotten some, but I need more confirmation that this is real. Trump supporters got an email that said that this email is for patriots only. You've been identified as one of President Trump's fiercest and most loyal defenders, and according to your donor file, you'd make an excellent addition to the Trump army. It goes on to tell them that they would get a limited edition camo Keep America Great hat, to let them know that you are the president's first line of defense when it comes to fighting off the liberal mob. I don't know if you know, Hitler made Jews wear yellow stars. This feels like the reverse of that.
Hello everyone, just sitting down here with my Yorkshire goatee. I'm sorry if this offends any racists on Twitter, but I really like Yorkshire tea. I really like that they also stand up to racists on Twitter. That's fantastic. Because black lives do matter. And Yorkshire tea is great. Imagine being offended by tea. Is there anything these racists aren't offended by? They win seemingly every vote, and they're always upset by everything. Oh, the tea! Oh, I'm sorry. It's just tea, though. And it's really nice tea. You should try it. Good job, Yorkshire Tea. Keep up the great work.
Whenever there's a TikTok that makes a joke or a statement about white people or white men, there's always some top comment that's like, not all white people, or like, not all men. You don't speak for me. Like, okay, you're a white guy. Calm down. Like, you can handle a TikTok that makes a generalization that's probably true about white men. All right? You don't have it that hard. I just liked a TikTok that said all white men should die. Now, do I believe that? Yes. Yes, actually, I do.
As a member of the white community, we respectfully decline. Pass it on to the blacks. Good luck.
As a member of the blacks, we don't take that shit. We pass it to the Asians.
As a member of the Chinese, we have centered our face across all Chinese media, and now we send this to the Indian community.
I'm trying. I can't breathe. Shut up, asshole. I can't. You fucking stupid. Shut up. I can't. That shit don't work. Get him up.
A lot of you guys have been asking me if witches are going to hex the police, if we're going to hex the government, if we're going to hex the cops who killed George Floyd. Your answer is, we're already doing it. We're already working behind the scenes. We're already doing protection spells, curses, hexes. We are already...
Police respond to a call about a man who allegedly used a counterfeit $20 bill to buy cigarettes.
I can breathe.
17 minutes later, the man they are there to investigate lies motionless on the ground.
Anger boiling across the United States. Nearly 40 cities have imposed curfews as protests sweep across the country.
I have children. I have a family. And we are supporting our community. There's no need to tear us down.
It's been 10 days since George Floyd was brutally murdered.
How many times do we need to ask you to listen to your players?
What will it take
for one of us to be murdered by police brutality?
What if I was George Floyd?
If I was George Floyd?
What if I was George Floyd?
If I was George Floyd?
If I was George Floyd? If I was George Floyd?
I am George Floyd.
I am Breonna Taylor.
I am Ahmaud Arbery. I am Eric Garner. I am McCormick Dunn.
I am Tamir Rice.
I am Trayvon Martin.
I am Walter Scott.
I am Michael Brown Jr.
I am Samuel Du Bois.
I am Freddie Smart.
I'm Philip White. I am Jordan Baker.
We will not be silenced.
We assert our right
to peacefully protest.
It shouldn't take this long to admit. So, on behalf of the National Football League,
this is what we, the players,
would like to hear you state.
We, the National Football League,
condemn racism and the systematic oppression of black people.
We, the National Football League,
admit wrong and silencing our players from peacefully protesting.
We, the National Football League,
believe Black Lives Matter.
Black Lives Matter.
Black Lives Matter.
Black Lives Matter.
think the important thing for white parents to keep in the front of our mind is that if black children in this country are not allowed innocence and childhood without fear of being killed by police or marginalized in some other way, then our children don't deserve innocence. If Tamir Rice can be shot dead in a public park playing with a toy gun, something white children do all over this country every day without the same fear of being shot, if Tamir Rice can be killed, then white children need to be told at least at the same age. If they can't be innocent, we don't get to be innocent. And if we would keep that in the front of our minds, then perhaps we would be able to hear what black and brown folks are telling us every day and have been for many years.
Smashing racism too! Smashing racism! We're gonna smash it! We're gonna smash it! We're gonna smash it! We're gonna smash it! We're gonna smash racism! Oh! Smashing racism 3, y'all! Oh shit! Oh yeah! Smashing racism 3! Yeah! Fuck yeah! Fuck yeah! Woo!
Suck my dick, Jew! I don't like Jews! I hate Jews! I hate Jews! I hate Jews! Suck my dick!
And I stand before you as a hypocrite, as somebody who has not always been on the right side of racial issues. I've said the N-word on my podcast, and I thought I used it in a context that made it okay. I look back on those clips with just embarrassment and shame. But sometimes a hypocrite is just a man in the process of changing, and I don't think that it's ever too late to change for the better.
Okay, so for me, at least, this one friggin' blew up. And you'll notice that I also posted some other ones, all concerning the same thing, but that's not how the algorithm works, so I have been told. So here's what basically went down. Me, a Jewish woman, saw swastikas, all lives matter, lots of propaganda, lots of other World War II kind of Hitler-y stuff. And so I also saw this email saying that Trump supporters can donate to get this hat to form an army. A clarifying thing that I found out from people is that just because you are a registered Republican does not mean that you got this email, but if you donated to the Trump campaign, then you got the email. Hitler did something very, very similar, but sort of in the reverse order by making Jewish people wear a yellow star, whereas now we are asking Trump supporters to distinguish themselves with this special hat. So yes, this freaked me out, and it should freak you out too, because he is identifying who to protect rather than just labeling the enemy.
Chicago, the aim is to establish more networks of self-defense.
We're trying to develop self-defense skills in a political climate that's increasingly violent, especially towards marginalized peoples, people who are not in power, the poor, the oppressed.
We're invested in building material force of resistance against the rising nature of fascism in this country and obviously the longer history of white supremacy. And so we're really invested in cultivating the capacities for our bodies to just be stronger, because at the end of the day, it's stronger people are harder to kill.
A lot of people think like when you learn how to fight, it's all about being aggressive and like learning how to go start fights with people. That's not what we're about at all. We're here to develop the bodily instincts to be able to react in a situation where we might be put in danger.
We believe that we need to start developing these skills, especially as the violence against us, violence against marginalized peoples is only escalating under Trump, right?
We want this to be an open-facing project. Everybody's welcome except police and people that are affiliated with strong right-wing groups.
We're trying to build a space where people who may not be accepted into the kind of heteronormative, masculine, macho gym culture, and have a space for everyone to be able to learn self-defense skills. It's going to be free, donation-based.
A lot of anti-fascist groups in the U.S. Tend to kind of stay underground, and so we want to make this kind of politics of anti-racism and anti-fascism much more public and much more accessible to the mainstream.
And so, yeah, we're a broad, open, public-facing, popular self-defense project.
So it's Haymaker Chai at riseup.net. We also have a Twitter, which is also Haymaker Chai. A number of different folks have already emailed us, and they're interested in starting similar projects in other cities. So we're really invested in, beyond the kind of local context of Chicago, we think that starting a network of self-defense gyms all over the U.S. would be really dope.
Because within our organizing collective, we don't necessarily have, we can't speak to all of the different problems, I guess, and issues that people face in the city. So we're trying to use Haymaker as a space to organize with other groups in order to advance the broader.
What is the definition of white fragility?
White fragility is the discomfort and defensiveness on the part of a white person when confronted by information about racial inequality and injustice.
Hey, Dave, you've benefited from white male privilege your entire life.
Now I'm sad, and I'm going to yell really loudly about how I'm not racist and not reflect on the actual world we live in and how I contribute to white supremacy because my feelings are hurt. And I have black friends.
It's my turn. It's my turn. You try to conflate protesting and police misconduct. And shame on you. And you're absolutely wrong. You won't address the issue. You will refuse to address the issue. Because I'm talking to you. You're not my brother. You're not my brother. You are hurting black people by acting this position. You are taking the wrong position. No, my brother. That stuff plays out. That plays out. Address the question. Do you? Oh my gosh! You have lost control. You're a dinosaur. You're an outright dinosaur. You have lost it, sir. I'm not part of your group. I'm not part of your group. You have lost it. You are a dinosaur. And you know what? He's funding the police. You are wrong. You are wrong, my friend. No, I don't think so. Because your position is so way off. I will not respect it.
You come out of the block disrespecting people. Yeah, you disrespect me the day that Brother Floyd is fighting the grave. Who do you
and do all you want. That does not work on me. That does not work on me. You're not my brother. Keep saying that. It's all talking points. Old talking points. Those are old talking points.
Hang on, guys. All right, Leo, give me a second. Guys, all right, everybody's mic'd out. Hang on. Guys, one at a time. Cornell West, then we'll go to Leo. Cornell, you're up.
Not on this day. Not when Floyd Jr. put in the grave. No.
Leo?
Okay, I'll wait. Okay, thank you. Can I just, you know what? You asked him a very simple question. He won't say he's against defunding the police because you know what? He's in favor of defunding the police. I'm opposed to it. And this man is a dinosaur. We have to protect our community, our black community. And you know why Professor West and I are on this program? Because we have education. We have to improve
Leo,
education.
Let me go back to Professor West. Professor, go ahead. Professor.
You're a dinosaur. Don't put words in my mouth. Sean, what you have people on this show that can't respect the people who come on?
Oh my gosh, you're giving talking points. There's no respect there because you are just giving talking points.
I ain't got no talking points. Sean knows I'm as critical of the Democratic Party, oftentimes the Republican Party. I don't talk talking points.
Because if you're Ice Cube and you put out Black Hebrew Israelite propaganda on your Twitter feed, and if you put out like actual QAnon anti-Semitism, you're totally fine. So Ice Cube, who has 5.3 million Twitter followers, put out an openly anti-Semitic picture yesterday. It's a picture of a bunch of old Jewish men sitting over a Monopoly board that is built on the back of brown people. And he says, F the new normal until they fix the old normal. Has Ice Cube faced any blowback? Is he going to lose any jobs over this? Of course not. He's a hero of the Republic, Ice Cube.
Hi, my name's Kenny McBride with McBride Arts, and this message is for Ben Guichard. As you know by now, your picture is being shared statewide by news sources. You're going to have to pay for the crime you committed. The salon owner, the small business which you directed your hate towards, has filed a police report. I want you to know that you have not silenced George Floyd in any way. His beacon is brighter today because of your actions. I cannot control the actions or the words that will come towards you from the community, okay? Nor do I assume that I can. But I do believe in healing and bridges. And so it's with these intentions that I want to extend a dialogue to you. This is your opportunity to perhaps say an apology to the community. And to be clear, this is not to seek justice for the community you've made feel disgusted, at unease, and yet empowered. I only invite you to use your voice and have a face-to-face conversation with me if you have the strength and, explain to me why you thought it was okay to deface the image of a husband, a father, a family man, a peacekeeper, that's life was executed so suddenly, systematically, and maliciously. The time is now for morality. And if you're not going to do good for yourself and others, then you better stumble aside because, we the people here, we're going to reach nirvana.
I take responsibility.
I take responsibility.
I take responsibility.
I take responsibility for every unchecked moment
For every time it was easier to ignore than to call it out for what it was.
Every not-so-funny joke. Every unfair stereotype.
Every blatant injustice, no matter how big or small.
Every time I remained silent.
Every time I explained away police brutality. Or turned a blind eye. I take responsibility. Black people are being slaughtered in the streets, killed in their own homes. These are our brothers and sisters.
Our friends, our family. We are done watching them die. We are no longer bystanders. We will not be idle. Enough is enough.
I will no longer allow an unchecked moment. I will no longer allow racist, hurtful words, jokes, stereotypes, no matter how big or small, to be uttered in my presence.
I will not turn a blind eye. Going for a jog should not be a death sentence. Sleeping in your own home should not be a death sentence.
Playing video games with your nephew should not be a death sentence.
Shopping in a store should not be a death sentence. Business as usual should not be life-threatening. I stand against hate.
I stand against hate. I stand against hate.
I stand against hate.
I will stand against hate in love. I will make my presence known.
And killer cops must be prosecuted. They are murderers. We can turn the tide. It is time to take responsibility. Call out hate. Step up and take action.
In 2014, the Obama administration announced a massive project to change the way policing is done in America. At the Department of Justice, they pledged to, quote, build community trust, retraining officers in catchphrase-friendly concepts like implicit bias and procedural justice. And they focused on a handful of pilot cities: Birmingham, Alabama, Gary, Indiana, Fort Worth, Texas, and Minneapolis. We all know how that went. Alex Vitale is the author of The End of Policing, and he's sort of the intellectual grandfather of a movement you've probably heard a lot about lately: defund the police.
So in the wake of Ferguson and the murder of Tamir Rice and Eric Garner and the death of Sandra Bland in police custody, we were told, don't worry, we're going to fix it. We got a plan. And these reforms were mostly ridiculous and had no possibility of working because they completely misunderstand the nature of the problem.
It's a line of thought that springs almost organically from the experiences of millions of Black Americans who've experienced abuse and violence from cops all their lives. For some, it means exactly what it sounds like: get rid of all police. For Vitale, it means recognizing the police for what they are and asking a lot less of them.
What we need to understand is that policing, even when it does everything right, is a tool of violence and social control, and should always be understood as a deeply problematic institution. And anytime we turn a problem over to them, we are inviting that violence into our lives. And so that really can't be reformed ultimately.
Does that mean that there's a future you can see where there are no police in a city?
Well, I'd certainly like to see such a future. I mean, I think we'd all like to live in a world where public safety isn't achieved by people with guns and by putting people in cages. I mean, that's just a no-brainer. The question is, how do we get there? So what a lot of people are doing is thinking about and working with communities to identify what are the specific public safety challenges that they face that maybe have been turned over to police or that the police have not been able to address effectively. Is it that there's an opioid overdose crisis, that there's a problem of youth violence, that there's people with mental health crises wandering the streets? Is it a problem of car break-ins, burglaries, whatever it is? Let's put that on the table and start trying to address it. Why are we using police to manage our mental health problems?
Put that way, it's not such a radical idea. In fact, it's something a lot of cops have even advocated for. Cops often complain they don't want to be social workers or addiction counselors. It might also be thought of as a long overdue rebalancing. In New York City, the police budget has gone up 22% over the last 5 years. It's now nearly $6 billion, more than what the city spends on health, homeless services, and workforce programs combined. Other cities, like Oakland and Chicago, spend around 40% of their discretionary funds on policing. And even when cities cut, they often spare the police. The Washington, D.C. mayor's proposed budget for 2021 reduced spending by $166 million, while adding $1.7 million for the police. Still, defunding the police remains a long shot. City councils that have endorsed the idea say they aren't quite sure how they'd go around implementing it. Meanwhile, the Democratic nominee for president, Joe Biden, remains faithful to the idea that one thing that shouldn't be taken away from cops is the job of fixing themselves. On Wednesday, he announced a plan to give the police an additional $300 million to build community trust.
And that had to be an impediment to NASCAR reaching out to a broader audience, as well as having more drivers want to even be part of the sport.
Yeah, I mean, I think most people of color, if you've attended a NASCAR race or even thought about it, there are just certain symbols and a certain mood and a certain sentiment that has been bubbling at the surface of NASCAR events. And NASCAR has been trying to somewhat move away from it. And I say somewhat in kind of air quotes, but at the same time, you know, as someone who's attended several NASCAR races, it's hard for people of color to feel comfortable in these environments when you see the Confederate flag everywhere, when you just get this sense that you're at something that you're not welcome at. As much as NASCAR may try to distance itself from that, it's a living, breathing part of their sport. And you have a Black driver, you have an opportunity here to open this sport up in a new way. And so for this reminder, this very stunning, shocking, appalling, disgusting reminder of who, again, this sport is for, I'm very curious as to see how NASCAR handles this, because based off what everything I've read is that this had to be an inside job, because this garage was only open to essential personnel. So somebody associated with NASCAR likely may have been the culprit, which what does that say for a sport that's trying to create a more positive racial future?
Whoa! Yeah! Whoa! Wow! Wow! Wow!
Since y'all are still in denial that Trump supporters are racist, let me just give you some new proof. According to CNN Canada, it was found that Joe Biden supporters are 7 times more likely to be victims of arson than Trump supporters are. According to BuzzFeed Blue, it was found that the average Trump supporter says the N-word around 4 to 9 times a week. You can have a fit as much as you want in the comment section. This won't change the fact that Trump supporters are undeniably racist.
Gay rights.
Gay rights.
Gay rights.
Gay rights.
Gay rights. Gay rights.
Black gay rights.
Gay rights. Gay rights. Gay rights.
Gay rights.
Angel!
Oh, hey, Craig.
I'm here to drop off my sister, Jessica.
Hello. Oh, welcome, Jessica. It's so nice to meet you. You're gonna have lots of fun here. Okay, so I'm gonna need you to fill out these forms. I'll need your name, number, pronouns, any allergies your sibling may have, and your preferred excuse if they get into trouble and need to call your parents. If you can't think of one, I can make one up. I'm very creative. Craig, can you do me a favor and watch the kids for me? I have to get this kid some calamine lotion stat.
I don't know. We were going to...
Oh, come on, Craig. You're so good with kids. I mean, look at how uninfected your sister is. You're such a great older brother.
Uh-oh. They've unleashed the compliments.
It's true. I have kept her alive for a whole 15 minutes.
Now is not a time to stay quiet.
Nickelodeon invites you and your family for Kids Race and Unity, a Nick News special. We'll hear from organizers.
I felt obligated to speak out against racism.
Leading experts.
As parents, should we talk about this? Should we not talk about it?
It's just about helping the world.
And some very special friends.
Be a good person.
Use your voice.
Don't be silent. It is definitely time for a change.
Alicia Keys hosts Kids Race and Unity, a Nick News special, tomorrow at 7 on Nickelodeon.
I'm Amara Jones, founder of Translash Media. In this Black Lives Matter moment, Black trans women have a very simple message. Stop killing us. We can't expect others to care about us more than we care about ourselves. We're all free, or none of us is.
From a grassroots level.
After our segment on Thursday, Senator Braun asked to come on this show to detail his position. Of course, we're happy to have him. Senator Braun, thanks so much for coming on. Before I ask you about qualified immunity and your attempts to water it down, I was very surprised by that endorsement that you gave on camera of Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter has, of course, called for the murder of police officers. Why do you support it, and are there any other race-specific revolutionary movements that you support?
So, Tucker, thanks for having me on in the first place. I know when you came out, and I like it when somebody does challenge, especially something like this, when you're talking about changing something that's been around for a while. And, Tucker, I come from Main Street. Your viewers are my supporters, and I've got one of the most conservative voting records. No, that's true. Okay. You'd have to check with them, just like I checked with the Indiana State Police, Indiana Sheriff's Association. Fraternal Order Police spent over an hour with them last week to make sure I wasn't off base. And here's where I come from.
I'm sorry, I'm confused really quick. Hold on. You're off base in your support of Black Lives Matter, your endorsement that you just gave? Have you read their website? Or are you in favor of abolishing the nuclear family? What do you support exactly in the Black Lives Movement? No, I'm not at all. What does that mean?
I support anybody that does have a grievance to be able to air it. And that's it. That doesn't mean all lives don't matter. It just means that if you think a certain sector of society has a grievance, it ought to be through transparency and the willingness to debate it and get it out there. I'm going to always go on the merits of the particular case. And going back to what I...
Fuck clapping back, bitch, I'm clapping on the dick. Bust it, I'm a savage. Bitch, throw it back like a 10-year challenge. Take him to the crib, then I push him on the sofa. Have his breath smelling like pussy and mimosa.
And certainly not what we were hoping for. A lot of our volunteers are ready for, sprains, strains, boo-boos, things like that. And, we're not always prepared for an active shooter. But again, I know that they did everything in their power. I truly believe that if our medics wouldn't have been there, there would have been 2 fatalities instead of 1. The second patient is still in critical condition, but he's alive. And I feel very proud to have been part of this organization or this collective for as long as I have been. And I'm, again, very eager to get back out there. We're restructuring, we're building safety protocols, we're, extending our resources as far as we can to make sure that moving forward we can be there, at full force to support this movement, because it's not ending anytime soon. There's still a lot of shit that needs to happen.
I can't believe y'all are getting
pay and just sit there like fucking idiots.
Violation. This is beautiful. Wow.
You guys go to clown college for like 26 weeks to wear those
You
stupid
know, a
fucking
hairdresser has to go to school for longer than you do.
Oh, shit.
Half of you don't even have a college education to be
Yup.
out here
Talk
making
about that.
demands about the people. When you can't even read a fucking history book
Yup.
and know where you come from. But you want to sit here and tell me that you're educated enough to make demands about shit you know nothing about.
Yup.
You should fucking know better. You should know better. Traitor. Traitor to your fucking people. You're like the fucking Black Judas. Selling Christ for fucking 33 cents today.
I'm gonna step around this board. Hey, I just wanted to thank you all so much. You know, folks